Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, this made not just major local news, but actually national news yesterday, and I really wish I had been there. I couldn't because of my ribs. But just a massive outpouring of support for Charlie Kirk at the steps of the Massachusetts State Legislature in downtown Boston. It was just a huge amount of people showed up, and I want to thank every member of Kuhner Country who attended. I want to thank all of you who sent me pictures, video clips. I couldn't believe how many people showed up, and more than that, how dignified, how honorable, how peaceful, how beautiful, frankly, the tributes were to Charlie Kirk, how the crowd conducted themselves. And look, it was all of you did Charlie Kirk proud. And you honored him, you honored his wife, his children, his legacy, and his memory. And as this is taking place, there were some Antifa troublemakers there. I know there were some demonstrators who were howling obscenities, profanities. There was some clown comedian who thought he was being funny when he was just being vile. And so you had to deal with these ridiculous anti-Kirk protesters who tried to infiltrate the crowd, yell, shout, scream, try to create, agitators who tried to create problems and disrupt the event. And slowly, the police escorted them out one by one, and the crowd, those that were there to honor Charlie Kirk, did not engage for the most part, did not take the bait, kept it civil, the way Charlie Kirk would have wanted it, kept it peaceful, kept it nonviolent. That's the most important. But there were members of Antifa there, and they were trying to derail the entire vigil. They were spoiling for a fight. They were itching to do damage and do harm. And they did everything in their power to say some of the most obscene, vile things imaginable, to trigger some confrontation or a fight or some violence. And let me just say this to those Antifa thugs. Your days are now numbered. Because one of the biggest stories of this week, besides the firing of Jimmy Kimmel, which is a big cultural story, don't get me wrong, but it has taken off the news cycle, one of the most important developments of Trump's entire second term. He has finally now followed through on his promise that he will now designate Antifa and other left-wing domestic organizations, violent organizations, as quote-unquote terrorists. In fact, as Trump announced, not only is Antifa now being designated a terrorist organization, but a, quote, major terrorist organization. In other words, it is going to be a full federal crackdown. The entire weight of the federal government, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, is now going to bear down, and disrupt these Antifa cells and start rounding them up. I'm talking thousands of them. And they are going to go to jail. They are going to be treated like Islamic terrorists. And on top of all of this, Trump said, as being designated, because they're designated now as a major domestic terrorist or group, a domestic terrorist network, their sources of funding, those who fund them, give money, their donors, are now going to be hunted down as well. They are going to be investigated, and under the criminal RICO statute that has been used to dismantle organized crime, they are going to go after every one of these wealthy Democrat donors and funders, including, yes, Soros and Son. George Soros and Alex Soros are now in big, big, big trouble because they have been bankrolling Antifa now for years. The burning, the looting, the shutting down of Seattle, that was Soros money to Antifa. Portland, Oregon, that was Soros money to Antifa. And so what I'm saying is, finally now, George Soros is going to get his comeuppance. And so my advice to these Antifa thugs that tried yesterday desperately and failed to intimidate people, to prevent the vigil from taking place and from disrupting it, is you better run. Run. If I were you, get out of the country. Go to Mexico, go to Canada, wherever you want to go, but run. Because now the FBI, the federal government, the American people, we are coming after you. Enough is enough. You pose a mortal threat and have for years to people's life, liberty, our fundamental freedoms, and everything that Charlie Kirk stood for. Above all, freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. It is time now for Antifa to get the reckoning. It has been long overdue. These are violent political thugs. These are communist terrorists. They are brown shirts, and they need to be treated as such. In the name of anti-fascism, they are the fascists. Now, Obama, he is the godfather of the far left. Maybe the most despicable thing, frankly, that I have seen in everything that's happened regarding the aftermath in the wake of the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Of all of the leftists celebrating his death, glorifying his death, rationalizing and excusing his death, maybe it was the Der Litter and his comments that have turned my stomach more than anything else, and that includes Jimmy Kimmel. Because Obama gave birth to Black Lives Matter. Obama gave birth to Antifa. Obama gave birth to this culture of left-wing assassination and left-wing terrorism. He, as I said, is their godfather. They are his children. And in Erie, Pennsylvania, in an interview with Steve Scully, the Der Litter, desperately now trying to gaslight and manipulate the American people, trying now to spin his way out of the consequences and the society and the culture that he has now created, is now doing the ultimate in gaslighting. He now compared Trump, listen to this, Trump is the political extremist in the White House. Trump is the one who ultimately, according to Obama, is to blame for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Because when the Der Litter was president of the United States, hey, there wasn't one extremist view in the White House. Listen to him. Lie and lie and lie. Roll cut 100B. A mic.
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views. And that is when we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem.
This guy, I'm sorry, this guy's an absolute scumbag. No, really. I mean, he's the worst of the worst. The demagoguery, the lying, the mendacity, the propaganda, the manipulation. All your administration was full of extremist views, starting with you. Who's the one that said, literally on the campaign trail, get in their faces, go to your friends, go to your neighbors, get in their faces if you have to, but you make sure they vote for me? Who was the one that said, you, they bring a knife, we bring a gun? Who is the one that called us bitter clingers? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to the dear leader, Barack Hussein Obama. This is him now. Now he's pouring more gasoline on the fire, blaming Trump and saying he's the one that's created this culture of violence. He's the one that's fomenting this extremism that led and resulted in the death of Charlie Kirk. Listen now to Obama. So first he goes on and claims there weren't extreme views in my White House. And, unlike Trump, the dear leader, I don't put the full weight of the federal government, as he put it, behind extremist views. So, in other words, everything now is Trump's fault. And all of the political hatred in the country, the growing violence in the country, the murder of Charlie Kirk, that's not Obama's fault. That's not the Democrats' fault. That's not the media's fault. No. It's all Trump. It's Trump's fault. Well, listen now to him. Again, blaming Trump for what is happening right now to our country. Roll cut 100A. Mike.
And so when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin, enemies, who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem that we have right now. And something that we're going to have to grapple with, all of us, whether we're Democrats, Republicans, independents.
I mean, this guy's really disgusting. He's stomach turning. Really, it's sickening. So let me get this straight. You, when you were president, you were the one that called the Tea Party extremists. You were the one that began saying our opponents are fascists. That was you. You ordered Lois Lerner at the IRS to deliberately target conservatives and conservative groups, to suppress them, to harass them, to bankrupt them, to prevent them from mobilizing in the 2012 election. You started the attack on political opponents. Who was the one that supported Occupy Wall Street? That was you. Who was the one that wanted to nuke up the Iranians? That was you. Who was the one that went on a global apology tour, denigrating and criticizing your own and mocking your own country and constantly promoting radical Islam? You. Benghazi. You. All of this was you. And then you staffed your administration with people like Anita Dunn, who literally, you can look it up, openly says that her personal and philosophical inspiration is Mao Zedong, the worst mass murderer in history. Valerie Jarrett, who did everything she could to help the Iranians get the bomb. You, who sent billions of dollars illegally in pallets of cash to the Iranian mullahs so they can continue their campaign of terrorism. You who rammed Obamacare down our throat. And if you notice, ever since he rammed Obamacare, which was deeply unpopular, the polls were dead set against it. We have now been permanently divided, permanently polarized. You're the one who unleashed cancel culture. You're the one that unleashed the radical left and their political hatred for all their political opponents. And of course, you had Joey, who was your third term. And God knows, let's not even get into Joe Biden. And yet now, after creating a Frankenstein's monster, where all you people do now is call all of your opponents, every Republican, every conservative, every Trump supporter, the president himself, Hitler, Nazis, fascists, white supremacists, authoritarians, bigots, deplorables, racists. You dehumanize us systematically for years, to the point that an innocent man, a husband, a father, a God-fearing civil rights leader and conservative icon at a college campus in front of thousands of students, sitting at a table with a microphone in front of him, wanting to simply just debate, have a free exchange and debate of ideas, was shot in the neck and murdered simply because of his opinions and his views, because you and your allies and the people that support you went on a 10-year dehumanization propaganda campaign that has permanently divided this country and has now put us on the brink of potential civil war. Had Trump been assassinated in Butler, Pennsylvania, God knows what would have happened. Another left-wing madman just tried to kill the governor, this time of New Hampshire. This story broke yesterday. He wanted to use pipe bombs to kill Kelly Ayotte. By the grace of God, law enforcement caught him in time and prevented the attack from taking place. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends. This is from 617. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. Jeff, every time I hear Obama's voice, I get nauseous. I swear, same here. I swear. I just hear it, and I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, my stomach. Oh, please turn it off. I'm going to throw up. Please, throw it off. Turn it off. Please, I'm going to throw up. Turn it off. Really, you want to talk about an absolute hypocrite. I mean, just a liar of the first order. So I want to ask all of you, he's now pouring more gasoline on the fire. He's trying to cover up for the radical left, because that's his creation, and the radical Democratic Party, which is he's the creator of this. This is all him. The fundamental division and polarization in our country, this climate of hatred on the left that we're living with and dealing with right now, is all because of Barack Obama. It all stemmed from him. There's no question. He gave birth to this, and he wanted to give birth to this. And now he's trying to blame Trump for the Frankenstein's monster that he created. I don't think so. Nah, this one's not going to wash. Nah, no one's buying it anymore. So, A, what do you make of Obama? A, just opening his mouth. B, trying to blame Trump for the murder of Charlie Kirk. And Antifa. President Trump yesterday, in fact 2 days ago, forgive me, designated, it was Wednesday evening, designated Antifa now a major terrorist organization. To me, it's about time. Better late than never, as I like to say. But I want to hear from you. Good move, bad move, and of course, all of you wonderful patriots who attended Charlie Kirk's memorial in Boston yesterday. I know some members of Antifa tried to disrupt it. They failed. And I want to congratulate all of you again for not taking the bait. Please let me know what you saw yesterday. What was Antifa doing? And how many of them were there? And in the end, do they understand now that they're terrorists? That they've been designated and branded as terrorists officially by the government? And that pretty soon, some of those people you saw yesterday are going to be in jail. 617-266-6868. It's all on the table. Ernest in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Ernest, and welcome.
Good morning. This rhetoric that Obama was spewing it's absolutely disgusting. What that man has done to this country, when he said he wanted to, what did he say? He wanted to change the country.
Fundamentally transform. That's what the exact, Ernest, I don't mean to cut you off, but quote unquote, this is his exact words, fundamentally transform America.
Disgusting. He's a disgusting person. For people to blame the Republicans or independents for this, what happened to Charlie Kirk, we know that the far left is to blame for what this happened. It goes back to what they call projection. What they want to do and what they're thinking they put onto you.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Ernest. You're absolutely correct. And look, we have the shooter's own words. I mean, I this is what I find incredible. Like, how stupid do they think we are? No, really, it's insulting. So we have the shooter's own words, his own note that he left, his own text message exchange. We have his engravings on the bullets. We have his own parents telling us, yeah, he was a radical leftist. That's why he killed him. We have his own family saying it, his own friends saying it. I mean, the FBI is, everybody, the law enforcement, everybody's saying it. And the evidence is irrefutable. No, they understand now that the American people have opened their eyes and that they see the Democratic Party and this modern radical Democratic Party that Obama created. They now see it for what it is. It is a party of murder and hate. And that's his creation. Like Satan's spawn, that's his creation. And he's trying to deflect and distract. And Ernest, I'm telling you, nobody's buying his BS anymore. It's not working. It's not. Because the facts are the facts are the facts. As the Democrats like to say, they always say this, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. Well, now I'm going to take their words and turn it right around on them. Obama can say he can blow smoke all he wants. The facts are the facts are the facts. Ernest, thank you very much for that call. Good call. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, Jeff? Good morning. You have people, you say there are people on Trump's camp that listen to your show, and I'm sure there are. But let's go on offense. We need to go on offense. I would like to see, before I get to my main points about Obama, believe me, I have a bunch of them, but I would like to see J.D. Vance challenge Barack Obama to a debate on extremism and who is the real extremist. Somebody of his stature challenging Obama to a debate on this. Let's see if Obama takes it, because that's what we need to do. We don't have to fight with violence. We can fight with challenging him to debate and our words, just like Charlie did. And by the way, I think what Obama was basically saying was that, and I hate to put it in this way, but that you went after the wrong guy. And Obama basically, and the Democrats have basically, from Obama, have declared a fatwa in the United States and on conservatives. Remember Red Biden speech? Remember that Dark Biden speech? They did that. They've been doing that for years. But I think that Charlie was MAGA. Charlie and Trump were almost identical in all their positions. So if he's going to blame, instead of going after Charlie, which he knows he can't do, he's going after Trump. But basically, they're all going after MAGA. And the thing is that you're absolutely right. Before, when you were talking about Obama, you've mentioned a lot of things, but you didn't yet mention what happened with Trayvon Martin and with Ferguson. And Ferguson, after the Ferguson riots, remember, there are police assassinations all over the country. In New York City, police were shot in their car. It was in Dallas. I think there was one in L.A. and all over the country. And that was spawned by Obama and his rhetoric, the anti-police rhetoric. And he's been doing that ever since. He gives $150 billion to Iran. He had the most basically extremist administration in the history of the country, and that was the second one under Biden was even more extremist than he was. Look at what the FBI did to pro-lifers. Look what they were doing to people who were complaining at school board meetings.
They censored people. Look, I mean, they censored countless people under the orders of the Biden administration, under the Biden regime. People were completely censored. Millions of conservatives were censored under Biden. This was all Obama. And you're right, Trayvon Martin, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me just give you a taste. I don't want to give you too much Obama. It's early. I don't want you to throw up your breakfast. Okay, so one more, I promise, and that's it. This is the dear leader in 2008 on the campaign trail. So this was him just before he got into the White House. By the way, encouraging his supporters to confront their friends and neighbors. So he was telling them to do 10 years before. Remember Mad Maxine Waters? When she said, get up in their face, and the gas station, in the restaurants, wherever they are. You know, you make life miserable for Republicans or conservatives or Trump supporters. Meet them, confront them everywhere. Meet them everywhere. Make life miserable for them everywhere. Obama was 10 years ahead of his time. Listen now to the dear leader. This was in 2008. Roll cut 101. Mike.
I need you to go out and talk to your friends and talk to your neighbors. I want you to talk to them whether they're independent or whether they are Republican. I want you to argue with them and get in their face.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. And by the way, the media said nothing. The media loved it. The media were egging people on. Yeah, do it. That's when the climate of hatred began. The climate of bullying, the climate of intimidation, which has now become in many ways a climate of assassination and of left-wing terrorism, of terror. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Henry in Walpole. Thanks for holding, Henry, and welcome.
Yes, Jeff, we were over in Ireland recently, and they're really excited. He's coming over, $2,000 a seat to sit in an auditorium looking at him with his leg crossed, going on for an hour and a half with some old retired reporter over there. He's starting in England and going to Ireland, making millions, saying the same thing probably for an hour and a half at each site. So it's a disgrace, it really is. And the people have swooned for him over there in Ireland especially. They really love the guy. And a lot of people in England, too, and throughout Europe think he's the greatest thing since bread. So I think he's going to make tons of money spreading all this crap.
Henry, I've got to ask you, you're completely right, by the way. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars already. He is so filthy rich, and he pimped out the White House. He sold it to the highest bidder, especially to the mullahs in Iran. But, I mean, he is swimming. He's swimming in Saudi money, Qatari money, Chinese money. You're right. He goes out, $2,000 a pop. He's treated like a rock star in Europe. Henry, I've got to ask you this. why you mentioned the people of Ireland, and I love the people of Ireland. I used to do a lot of hits on Irish radio during the election campaign. Wonderful people, honestly, charming, funny, big heart. Let me ask you this, Henry. What is it about Obama that they like? Like, what did he do for them? I'm just curious. What is it about Obama that they all so love and admire? Did they tell you when you ask them? Like, concretely, what did he do for the people of Ireland? What did he do for the people of England? What did they say to you, Henry?
Well, I think they have a lot of white guilt, and they feel, oh, he's a black man, he made it, and let's get behind him to show that we are very tolerant people over here in Ireland, unlike the Americans and MAGA. That's a lot of it, I think, has to do with that. They're very naive. They're very, they don't seem to have a grasp of things. I know when we go over, they ask us, why do people like Trump so much? We didn't explain to them. They've got the country together. Obama just exploits people who swoon for him. You know, he makes tons of money doing it.
Interesting. Henry, thank you very much for that call. Look, I mean, who's the one that allowed ISIS to run wild? It was Obama. He unleashed a Holocaust against Christians and Yazidis and others in the Middle East. It was because of him, literally because of him, that Europe became overrun with Muslims. Radicalized, Islamists who just poured into Europe. It was all under Obama. I mean, look, hey, the Europeans can like whoever they want. I'm just saying, if you're a European, I don't care if you're Irish, English, German, Italian, French, Portuguese, take your pick. I don't care. I'd be like, this is the one guy we can't stand. Almost all of our problems we can lay at his feet. 617-266-6868. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Oh, good morning from the happy North Country, Jeffrey.
Mark, how are you, buddy?
Good. Hey, listen, bud, when are you going to move up here and get the heck out of that cesspool of Massachusetts?
Could be sooner than you think, my friend.
Mike, I'm going to tell you, there's a huge Catholic church, but right down the street from me, you probably love it there. Truly.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but apparently now heating prices, to heat your home, natural gas, they're going to go up again this winter in Massachusetts. We're going to get walloped. It's just getting unbearably expensive. And they're going to kill the middle class. I'm telling you, they are killing the middle class in Massachusetts. And this is all Maura Healey. This is all her, all the Democrats who are trying to get everybody to get off fossil fuels by just making it exorbitantly expensive. And it's deliberate. And every 3-4 months, they're just going to keep raising prices until you force people to adopt wind or solar. And who wants wind or solar? As Trump said in Britain, what was it, yesterday? He said it's garbage energy. It's very inefficient, and it's also extremely expensive. But anyway, I digress, my friend. What's on your mind, Mark?
Barack Obama, Jeff, right? I mean, you're 100% right. The guy weaponized DOJ, FBI, IRS, NSA, CIA. The guy took every organization, and weaponized it against anybody that disagreed with him. Did he do it out in the open? No, of course not. He's a smart guy. He did everything behind the scenes. He was the puppet master, Jeff, that pulled all the strings, that ordered all these people to do all these horrid things against people he didn't, have political agreement with, and he turned it against us. And then he sits there and he runs his mouth about, these extremists. It was Barack Obama who said he wanted a civilian police force to rival the U.S. military, Jeff. This is a guy who has always sought to overthrow the United States and convert it into some kind of, socialist communist utopia. And you know what? Barack Obama, he can go pound sand. If we had a media that actually told the truth and actually told people what this guy had been doing, his favorability would be in the toilet, Jeff. But the problem is the left loves him. I still believe today that if we had had elected a black man or a black woman even that loved this country, I think that would have been such a unifying person. If you could have gotten someone that actually loved the United States. We're not perfect, but this is the greatest country there is. And we could have had someone, a black man that actually loved this nation. I think we would be in a much different place. No, instead we got this guy that hates the country, hates half the country, sits there and thinks that everyone is a racist and tells everybody, like you said, that gave way to Maxine Waters, telling people to get after everybody, get in their faces, harass them. Barack Obama gave rise to the protest victim class, Jeff. That's what he did.
Oh, you're dead on. Mark, as usual, you're absolutely dead on. And Mark, look, you touched on something earlier. I was just looking at his actual, his presidency, because he was comparing himself to Trump. But you're right. You look at the last couple months, just the last couple months of the Obama regime. Who's the one that orchestrated the Russia collusion hoax? It was him along with Hillary. Who's the one that ordered Brennan and Clapper and Comey to lie about Trump, saying he's an agent of Russia? It was Obama. Who ordered that the deep state and the FBI illegally spy on Trump's presidential campaign and then spy on him in the White House? It was Obama. Who's the one that basically ordered a coup to subvert Trump's first term and overthrow him from power with the Russia collusion hoax? It was Obama. And, the one thing of all of his crimes, and, we can obviously agree to disagree, but I think for me, the one that really sticks in my craw, I mean, there's so much that what he did makes my stomach turn, but that he implemented the national surveillance state, that he's the one that turned the Patriot Act. He really weaponized the Patriot Act to justify the mass political surveillance of his enemies and opponents. He turned the FBI into the Stasi, into the Gestapo, into the KGB, whatever metaphor you want, whatever analogy you want to use. He used our FBI, our DOJ, the Department of Homeland Security, the NSA, and spying on his own citizens in order to politically go after them. To me, there's no question. He is the worst president we have ever had. The most dangerous, the most destructive, the most treasonous. Because to me, ultimately, Biden was just a puppet of Obama. So I look at Biden as almost essentially an Obama third term. And this guy now is going to act holier than thou. And after this is all him. Everything is him. Black Lives Matter, him. Antifa, him. The hatred now on the left against every single conservative, him. And he wants to pin the murder of Charlie Kirk on Trump? These people are sick. No, really, they're sick. Mark, final word to you, my friend.
People like him love to talk about Russia. Well, let's talk about Russia, Barack. You had the Russian reset. You handed him 25% of our uranium. You opened up, pipelines into Europe. You're the one that sat there and promoted Russia and gave them Crimea. Trump fought against Putin. Obama gave Putin everything. I'm done with these clowns, Jeff. And as far as Antifa goes, it's about time. I say lock every one of them up, put them in Guantanamo, ship them all out of here. People don't like it too damn bad.
Mark, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. As I said in my opening monologue, they tried to crash and disrupt the beautiful memorial that was held yesterday in Boston at the steps of the State House to commemorate and honor Charlie Kirk. It was a candlelit vigil, a prayer vigil A lot of people showed up. Apparently, even a lot of the media were there. It was such a big crowd that even the media had to show up and at least report on it. And there were some Antifa troublemakers. And they were trying to goad people into fights, into arguments. Some of them literally infiltrated the crowd and were shouting profanities and obscenities. And, have these people no decency? Like, really, to show you how sick they are. The man is dead. He's going to be buried on Sunday. And it's a peaceful, loving, innocent prayer vigil. That's all. That's all it was. And you have to try to destroy that? You have to try to disrupt and ruin that? And I just wish, again, I was there. I couldn't because of my ribs, but if I was there, I'm telling you, I would tell them to their face with that bullhorn. I would tell them right to their face, if I were you, get the hell out of here, because technically you guys right now are domestic terrorists. To the police, arrest them. They are now officially terrorists of the United States, according now to the Justice Department, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and the President of the United States. So we've got terrorists amongst us. Arrest their ass. And if I were you, Antifa, run and don't stop running. 617-266-6868. Jeff in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, that was a very good thing that Trump did, designating Antifa a terrorist organization. Now, let's get into the minds of the left, which is this. The reason why they're trying to pin the death of Charlie Kirk on Trump is this. This is strict mafia communist tactics, which is keep your mouth shut, Charlie Kirk. You wouldn't get assassinated if you just kept your racist mouth shut. Same thing with you, Trump. And that's the mind of the left. And you see, this is nothing new. Study the civil war of Albania, where the communists killed off anti-communist talk show host in Albania. This is very, very bad. The communists have a chart of what they want to do with this country. And the final step on the chart is large-scale guerrilla operations. We're at that stage right now. And you see, my advice is, if I was a talk show host, I would be getting as much security as possible because we're in a very dangerous time. If a talk show host has an event, have drones watch the event. Have drone operators, if legally possible, watch the event. Because we're in that time. Study Eastern Europe. Study other countries. This is nothing new. The reason why it's so new is because we've never had it done to us before. These things have been going on in communist countries for decades. Obama's cousin, Rafael Odinga, his supporters chopped the arms off his opponents when he lost the election in Kenya. We haven't hit that stage yet, but we're going to.
Well, Jeff, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, and you're right, this is how the communists operate. There is a woman, actually she's based in New Hampshire. She's a very brave woman. Her name is Karlin Borsenko. Hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She used to be a woman on the left. She's now become a conservative. And she infiltrates the left. So she will infiltrate these radical transgender groups, and these other left-wing groups. She recently infiltrated Antifa, pretending to be one of them. And she's now coming out and reporting what she actually witnessed and saw. And in fact, we're going to try to get her on. I really want to get her on next week to really reveal to all of you, some of her shocking findings. But what she's saying is, she says Trump is completely right. These are domestic terrorist cells. They operate, as you put it, like a military operation, like a military movement. And by the way, they're trafficking weapons, they're trafficking arms, they're trafficking pipe bombs. Many of them, you got a lot of homicidal maniacs. Many of them are obsessed with violence. They are behind many of the attacks on ICE. They have committed countless murders. They have been targeting police officers, judges, trying to intimidate people in the conservative media. They have been destroying public property, taking over Seattle, downtown, Portland, downtown, other parts of the country. And they're like a cancer. They're metastasizing. And they are very well funded. And they're basically an underground movement. And so she says the government better realize this isn't just a couple of, 21st century hippies, modern day hippies who just like to do some drugs and, smash a few windows. These are serious communist revolutionaries. And many of them have actually gone to Cuba to engage in military training exercises to commit acts of terror here in the United States. So you're completely right, Jeff. They're not playing around. And that's why it's time to take the gloves off. And hallelujah, it's about time. So again, I know I'm being a bit of a broken record on this, but they showed up last night. Some of them did. And they were itching for a fight. They wanted to completely destroy and ruin that vigil. And the brave patriots who showed up yesterday to honor Charlie Kirk did not engage. And so they didn't take the bait. But I'm telling you, it's time to start arresting every single member of Antifa. They're terrorists, and they need to be put behind bars. The quicker, the better. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to ask all of you. You obviously have now Obama pouring gasoline on the fire, blaming Trump, if you can believe it. Again, liberalism is a mental disorder. Blaming President Trump for the climate of political violence in our country and for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And there's something that Lou from Rhode Island said maybe about half an hour ago when he said it's as if the liberals now have put a fatwa on Trump and in many ways on Trump's supporters. And, I got to tell you, I think this is the major reason why you're seeing this massive backlash against everyone. I don't care if it's nurses or teachers or doctors or government employees, civil servants, or, Jimmy Kimmel, the most prominent example, well, whatever. To try not just celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk, but to try to somehow blame it on MAGA supporters. To say that somehow Trump or you or me or conservatives that somehow were to blame for what happened to Charlie Kirk. It's part of the continued dehumanization of us. It's very similar to Hitler in the 1930s. They love to use the Hitler analogy. Well, let's use it. The Jews were to blame for everything. They were the scapegoat for everything. So Nazis are killing people. The Jews are to blame. It doesn't matter. So it's always the Jews. It's always the Jews. Well, it's the same thing. It's always MAGA. It's always Trump. It doesn't matter how outrageous an atrocity is that this was a clear pro-transgender radical leftist. I mean, you can't make it more obvious. No, it's got to be MAGA. It's got to be Trump. And it really is like the secular liberal version of an Islamist or an Islamic fatwa. Kill him. What they're really saying is that Trump is a cancer on America. That MAGA and all of his 78 million voters and supporters are truly a cancer on America. We're to blame for everything. Political extremism, that's us. Fascism, that's us. Racism, that's us. White supremacy, that's us. Authoritarianism, that's us. Assassinations, that's us. So Charlie Kirk was MAGA. He was he campaigned for Trump. In fact, he was indispensable. The Trump campaign openly admitted this. Without Charlie Kirk, Trump would not have won Arizona and most likely Wisconsin, because he had such an influence on the youth vote, meaning those 18 to 29. So he loved President Trump. He supported President Trump, practically agreed with him on every single issue, and he campaigned for President Trump and was instrumental in Trump's victory. But Trump killed Kirk. MAGA killed Kirk, which is the disgusting smear and the disgusting lie that Jimmy Kimmel peddled on Monday night, which ended up getting him fired. Well, what's the difference between what Kimmel said and what Obama said? Except Obama does it in a bit more of a smooth, polished, I'm putting this in air quotes, presidential way. He's not smirking and laughing and, making cracks about he's mourning like a 4-year-old mourns the death of his goldfish. So without the crassness and the vulgarity of a Jimmy Kimmel. But the message is the same. The message is absolutely the same. And so let me ask all of you this. Now that Charlie Kirk is going to be buried on Sunday, it's going to be a massive funeral. President Trump will be there speaking. J.D. Vance will be there speaking. Apparently Pete Hegseth will be speaking. Many, obviously Erica, his wife, will be speaking. It is going to be in a stadium. It is going to be, it's going to be packed to the rafters, forgive me. It's going to be covered live. The whole world will be watching. And also in the wake of that beautiful, touching, powerful vigil yesterday in Boston at the steps of the state legislature to commemorate and honor Charlie Kirk. Let me ask all of you, was the death of Charlie Kirk in many ways the result of a fatwa? Not a formal fatwa, obviously, but an informal fatwa. And do you believe that conservatives are being hunted? That we are under siege? That the left, Obama in particular, but the media, the Democratic Party, bear responsibility for what happened because of the culture and climate of hatred and vilification and villainization and really of dehumanization that they have unleashed. 617-266-6868 is the number. I want to go to D on Cape Cod, but just super, super quick. I need to say this. Obama, when he was giving that interview with Steve Scully, where he went on and blamed Trump, if you can believe it, for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and said all this political extremism now that's, tearing the country apart, that's all MAGA. That's all Trump and his allies. He lied. Obviously he lied about Trump and MAGA, but he was listing stuff that allegedly Charlie Kirk believed in. And half of what he said that Charlie Kirk allegedly espoused was a blatant lie. And one of them, and they keep mentioning this, which is a disgusting lie, is that Kirk supposedly, according to them, claimed that black women's brains were smaller than that of white women. He never said that. He never came close to saying that. That is from a Washington Post editor and columnist, a diehard moonbat, who literally fabricated that quote She just made it up, like literally made it up. And that's why, this was maybe a week ago, the Post fired her for committing the most serious crime a journalist can commit, literally making up a quote. I mean, even a ninth grade high school newspaper would fire a so-called journalist or reporter for that. And so the Post said, no, he never, her own editor said, no, he never said that. You made that up. You literally made the whole quote up. So they had to fire her, but it doesn't matter. They took that quote, Obama did, many on the internet, on Blue Sky. That's where all the crazy liberals go on social media. Jasmine Crockett's been using it. AOC has been using it. Elizabeth Warren's been using it. It's a lie. He never said it. It's a smear. And this is the only way the left can deal with this, is either by making stuff up or, and this is what they're hinting at, wink, wink, he had it coming. Oh, he was such a hater. He was such a racist. Oh, of course he was going to get shot and killed. Honestly, these people are disgusting. 617-266-6868. D on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, D, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. And first-time caller, I told your screener I'm going to be sending you, I have some cell phone video of Antifa from last night, and I'll get that to you via email. What happened last night was quite an experience. Very briefly, I lived in Back Bay for years, taught at Boston universities in the area, and so my point is experienced a number of events and those of protest. What I saw last night with a group of about 30 from Antifa was the word was dangerous. The police were phenomenal. Their presence, I don't know if the Globe or Herald will cover this, Jeff, was extensive. And the helicopters flying above. I had a white poster with the Christian symbol with the fish, and I was one of those people that Antifa was right across from me, and I held up my poster, and the police were flanked behind all of us. But one thing I wanted to bring to mind is never did I feel in danger, even though they were loud and it was very palatable. What I found interesting and telling was something that I've seen just in reaching out. We've got our 50th reunion coming up on Facebook with old friends or whatever, and just seeing women my age being radicalized, and it's extreme, Jeff. So it says a lot about what's being planted internally in this country. And last night, we were a group of us were confronted by women my age, and I felt more in danger of them. But once again, when I turned around, there were about 100 police officers behind 6 of us, with those women across from us. We were, vis-a-vis with them, and that was very could have been a very dangerous situation if the barricades weren't there.
Well, D, by the way, I'm so thankful, A, that you've called, and B, that you're going to be sending me that video footage. D, for your first time calling, by the way, you've done an amazing job. Really, really good job. D, I got to ask you, say the police were not there, just for argument's sake. Say there was like 1 or 2 police officers. In other words, it was not a heavy, let's say there would not have been a heavy police presence. With those people that are so radicalized to hate conservatives, to hate Charlie Kirk, to hate you, to hate us, would there have been violence? Would Antifa and some of these elderly ladies, would they have started to spit on people, throw things at people, attack people, in your opinion?
Jeff, I have to speak with you right now, and I want to speak with you, and I want to speak with anyone listening from the White House office. My background all includes political communication and political protest rhetoric. I'll answer your question by saying, if there were not police presence there last night, and I don't say this lightly, there would have been attacks. I would have been attacked. Jeff. I would have
Wow.
been physically attacked. As a matter of fact, I folded up my Christian signage and put it in a barrel and walked down near the Park Street Church where they were still protesting. And they were protesting loud, and they were their language was absolutely grotesque, and people were walking by looking at them, visitors to the Boston area, in disgust, but they would look the other way. But to the Trump administration, yes, violence, absolutely, and I don't say that every day, Jeff. That's what I saw last night.
D, I've only got by the riveting. I've only got 1 minute left, so I need you to be really quick and to the point, D. Some of the footage that I got from members of Kuhner country that were there showed exactly what you're saying now. The look on some of their eyes, these Antifa thugs. D, am I wrong to say those were the eyes, hardcore fanatics? People full of rage. D, profound hatred. Almost psychotic. Am I wrong, D? Very quick, 30 seconds.
Jeff, no, you're not. I've just got to say you're not wrong at all. Those are the eyes I looked into, but equally important, the women my age, people that grew up.
Yeah, the more elderly people they're almost just as crazy. And you felt even unsafe around them. D, dynamite call. Thank you so much. And please send me that footage. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you again. And D, don't be a stranger. Call again. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. A lot of people now want to weigh in, obviously, on everything that's been happening. Huge funeral planned for Charlie Kirk on Friday. President Trump will be speaking. J.D. Vance will be speaking. Many members of the administration are going to be there speaking, as well as obviously Erica Kirk is going to be speaking as well. It's going to have international media. It will be covered live. Many are now saying for our generation, this is our JFK. People are now making comparisons to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. That years from now, people are going to be asking themselves, the moment Charlie Kirk was murdered, was shot, where were you? Where were you at that fateful moment? This is now the atmosphere, the feeling now that many say is starting to come over so many Americans in the wake of the tragic death and murder of Charlie Kirk. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Boy, those Antifa moonbats, Bruce. Apparently, there was quite a few of them yesterday at that prayer vigil. They were out in force, my friend. Bruce, buddy, what do you make of all this?
Well, the pen is mightier than the sword. Unfortunately, I believe the other side go with the violence against them like they go against us, but we're not that kind of dude. So the proof is in the pudding. It's all coming out. Obama, Soros, they're all responsible for ruining Europe with all the invasions and everything that we've been going through in this country. But just remember, Charlie Kirk was sacrificed for us, like you were almost sacrificed for us. And I hold you in the highest esteem, and I'm worried about you, but not really, because you got people. We got people. We got Jesus Christ and Lord God Almighty that are watching out for us. So we got to eliminate these Antifas, Black Lives Matter, anybody that wants to disrupt what really is going on here with the freedom of speech. They use it against us. Like, they can say and do whatever they want to do, but we can't speak out against them. This is communism at its highest accord.
Oh, you're dead on. Bruce, if you don't mind me asking, what is that noise in the background? It's like there's like a chainsaw or something.
No, it's chipping up tile at this apartment building.
Oh, okay.
And,
I'm like, it's like you guys are taking a chainsaw to, like, you know, a tree or something. Right.
It sounds like a machine gun.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, like, what, are you guys battling Antifa out there? Or? All right, Bruce, stay safe. Thank you for that call. God bless you, my friend. Keep on working, buddy. That's Kuhner country. They're calling as they're working. Okay. No, he's right. Look, my fear is that I think, look, the country's on a razor's edge. Let's not kid each other. And when Dee described these Antifa types that were there yesterday, and they're all over the country, the crazy eyes, the fanaticism, the use of the easily how they can resort to violence, the pure hatred, the obscenities, the profanities, almost the political and the insanity of them, how unhinged and deranged they are. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm thinking Islamic terrorists, jihadists. Except obviously they don't do it in the name of Allah and the Quran. They do it in the name of the Democratic Party and in the name of communism or Marxism. But my point is, a fanatic is a fanatic is a fanatic. And a terrorist is a terrorist is a terrorist. You can't reason with these people. And there can be no peaceful coexistence with these people. Because as Dee rightly said, if you didn't have an army of police yesterday, there would have been violence. At a prayer vigil. Again, over words. And again, words of peace, of reconciliation. Everybody there at the prayer vigil was saying, please, let's pray for the country. Let's pray for Charlie Kirk, for his wife, for his children. Let's pray for America. So I don't know how much more accommodating you can be, how much more peaceful you can be. And if Antifa finds that a threat, and they're even getting old ladies now, elderly citizens, elderly women, grandma, moonbat grandma, to show up and want to start throwing stones and glass bottles and punching and kicking, and because they've got them so indoctrinated and brainwashed. I'm worried what's going to happen on Sunday. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I don't want to say it, but I have to say it. So, look, this is why ABC News rightly said about Jimmy Kimmel, you got to take this guy off the air. As, these were local affiliates, Nexstar. These were local stations, big markets that, are ABC affiliated stations. They said, look, we don't need this. Our communities don't want this anymore. We don't want this kind of hatred anymore. We don't want this kind of incitement anymore. You're not going to stand there and lie about who was the murderer of Charlie Kirk in order to keep inciting people to hate MAGA and hate Trump. Like, this has got to stop. Because, or else it's going to get worse. There's going to be more assassinations, more violence, more terrorism. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. All right, let's go to Eddie in Charlestown. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Eddie.
I just got one question I want to make about Obama. He's, other than being a liar and he contradicts everything, he thinks the people are stupid. Maybe they are because some of them believe what he's saying. But I got one question. Does he actually think that Charlie Kirk deserved it? And if he does, did Martin Luther King deserve it? Because he died for the exact same reasons. So I want Obama to answer that question.
Well, Eddie, I love the question. And I think you really have gotten to the heart of the matter. He would lie because he's a liar and he's slick, and he would say, no, he didn't deserve it. But then, and that's what he did a couple days ago when he gave that interview. But then he would give you all the reasons why Charlie Kirk was such an evil person. And most of it are lies. As I mentioned, he said, black women have smaller brains than white women. That's a lie. He then went on to say, he downplayed slavery and said that we never should have gotten rid of slavery. He never said that. Ever. You're just lying. He went on to say he thought we should have kept Jim Crow and segregation. You're a liar. He was against Jim Crow and segregation. But in other words, he gives every reason why. He paints this picture of essentially of a Nazi, of a disgusting, hate-filled, bigoted, violent, KKK-loving, fascist white supremacist. So it's like, no, he didn't deserve it, but wink, wink, he did. No, let me be honest, Eddie. I'm sorry. We have to speak the truth. I'm telling you in private, Obama said he had it coming. And Jimmy Kimmel, he had it coming. I'm sure that's what Jimmy Kimmel, that's basically what he meant. Yeah, he had it coming. And I could run down the whole list. Look, I can't tell you how many millions and millions of liberals, so-called liberals, openly on social media said, what's the problem? He had it coming. He's MAGA. Of course you kill MAGA scum. Of course. Look, as Fetterman, Senator John Fetterman, a liberal Democrat, openly said, the moment you start comparing people to Hitler, that's an incitement to kill him. It's an incitement to kill. That's what it is. You're basically saying they're subhuman Nazi scum. And they're not just that we're scum. You have to understand, is that we're a threat to democracy. Is that if you don't kill us, we're going to kill them. That you and I, Eddie, this is what they really believe. That on this show, every day, we talk about concentration camps and gas chambers and murdering every Democrat and killing every liberal and imposing this fascist dictatorship and hauling people off into death camps. Like, that's what they think. And that's what they're being indoctrinated into. So literally for them, they're thinking like, well, if we don't kill them, they're going to kill us. This is Hitler. This is an existential threat to democracy. And by the way, they don't stop. They don't stop. Here, on the other side, I got to do the Kuhner's call log now. But I'm going to play you a clip. Rashida Tlaib in Congress. They picked up where they left off. You got to see the exchange between her and Congressman Byron Donalds. It's going to blow your mind. So no, most liberals and most Democrats honestly think Charlie Kirk had it coming. And his most unforgivable sin was that he helped to get Trump reelected. Yeah, he was threatening their power on college campuses, no question. Look, let me say it. What they really think and what they really believe. The only good MAGA is dead MAGA. They want not just Trump dead. They want J.D. Vance dead. They want you dead. They want me dead. They want every conservative Trump supporter either silenced, bullied, cowed into submission, or if you're a powerful voice like Charlie Kirk, boom. That's what they've unleashed. That's what they've unleashed. That's what 10 years of relentless propaganda and relentless demonization and vilification, that's what they've taken us to. And that's why you can see it now. You've got universities, you've got hospitals, you've got people saying, no, they're going to start slaughtering people. Like, this has got to stop. No, you can't cheer, and celebrate the murder of an innocent man. You're sick in the freaking head. So everybody senses we're just a few more assassinations away, and God, it will tear the country apart. That's why we have a duty to crack down on left-wing domestic terrorism. As I said, this is a cancer. This is a cancer. And with cancer, it only ends two ways. Either you kill the cancer or the cancer kills you. And that's why I support Trump designating Antifa a major domestic terrorist organization all the way. All the way. And those Antifa thugs that showed up yesterday at that prayer vigil, I'd arrest their asses on the spot. That's the equivalent of Al-Qaeda or ISIS or the Muslim Brotherhood or any other domestic terrorist any other terrorist organization. That's it. They're there to cause violence. That's what they're about. And we're done. We're done. Eddie, thank you so much for that question. You asked the proverbial $64,000 question. Okay, I'm a tad late. 8 o'clock-ish, Friday. You know what that means. Caller of the week, Kuhner's Call Log.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Julie.
I find this whole thing ironic with Jimmy Kimmel's high, holy, moral attitude, and he supposedly espouses the beliefs of the Democratic Party. When he got his start on TV with the men's show and women jumping in bikinis on trampolines, and the song that he and Sarah Silverman did with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, but yet he supposedly is the one we're supposed to listen to and believe. I can honestly say I have never watched any of the night shows, and I'm proud to say that because they're all disgusting and hateful people. It just seemed like we got away from comedy, and that's the whole issue, is Johnny Carson was all about making you laugh. These late night hosts are all about pushing their agenda and the Democratic agenda. It's not about fun and lightheartedness anymore.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Dynamite call. And honestly, this week, callers, you took it to another level. I'm not kidding. By the way, I know I mentioned this yesterday, but it's now been confirmed in multiple media outlets. Disney, which owns ABC, actually had a conversation with Kimmel after those incendiary, callous, stupid, hateful remarks. And they said, look, we're just asking you, apologize and walk it back. Just retract and let's move on. And even then, he said no. He refused to apologize. So, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Don't go on to me about the First Amendment or free speech. By the way, just so that you know this, you need to know this. In TV in particular, the coveted demographic, okay, the one that advertisers look to, is ages 18 to 49. Frankly, I don't know why people 50 and above they don't care about. To me, people 50 and above have a ton of disposable income. Okay, but let that go. Hey, look, that's their business, and that's their industry, and you know that's the standard they judge in terms of advertising revenue and demographics. So in that that's to them. That's their business. In that coveted 18 to 49 demographic, listen to this. Jimmy Kimmel only had 129,000 viewers. A pittance, a paltry 129,000 viewers. And to show you how his act was really wearing thin, even among hardcore socialists, Okay? Even among hardcore, I'm talking moonbats. Okay, hardcore leftists. Just in January, so what was that, 9 months ago, he had 288,000 listeners, which is still very small. For late night comedy, extremely, it's nothing. It's nothing. Much lower than Colbert, who has very bad ratings, and much lower than Jimmy Fallon and all the others. But he lost half his audience in 9 months. His super small 288,000 went to 129,000, which is basically nothing. In late night TV, you can't sell that. That's why the show was losing so much money. And why? Because all he did, night after night, it was for 9 months since Trump won the election and was inaugurated. All he did every single night was rage against Trump and Trump supporters. That's all he did. To the point that hardly even the liberals found him boring and honestly and tiresome. Like it's the same show every night. The same political bull, I can't say it. The same political BS every night. So you've got no ratings. It's an embarrassment. The company is losing money, a ton of money. They're bleeding cash. You make one of the most insulting, incendiary comments you can make. You've got a massive backlash. And they still throw you a lifeline. And say, look, just apologize, walk it back, and let's just move on, Jimmy. Nope. In fact, apparently he was going to double down. And that's when Disney said, this guy's crazy. Out, just cut him loose. Cut him loose. So please don't talk to me about Jimmy Kimmel and the First Amendment. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly, I want to go back to the phone lines. As promised, I just didn't have time to do it at the top of the hour after Kuhner's call log. But the Democrats haven't missed a beat. It's like Charlie Kirk wasn't assassinated. They're back to their fascist Nazi rhetoric. So listen now. This is Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib at an oversight hearing. And, she calls deploying the National Guard in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, has been immensely effective. Crime has practically disappeared in the nation's capital. Murder rates have collapsed. Homicide rates, burglaries, rapes, robberies. The citizens have reclaimed the streets. So law and order works. But here it is. Hitler, fascism, they can't stop. They cannot stop themselves. Roll cut 12, Mike.
Just like in D.C., home rule was won out of black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights, we can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say so personally as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in D.C. and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady yield?
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair, but you all live here, and you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's capital.
Well, yeah, now, because the criminals are afraid to walk the streets because they're all going to be arrested. Okay, but the point is, in deploying the National Guard, it's a fascist takeover. It's not a bad word. It's a fact. Okay, so we're back to Mussolini now? Hitler? Already? They haven't buried him yet, and you're already back. So, Byron Donalds, congressman, and for those of you that don't know, I know most of you do, but the few of you that don't, Byron Donalds is a black conservative, okay, from Florida. Probably will be the next governor. He then confronts Tlaib. Listen to this. Roll cut 12A, Mike.
It's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues.
Mr. Donald,
we were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free DC and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody else.
Okay? That's a member of Congress. That woman is insane. She's insane. That's a member of Congress. By the way, she's Palestinian, of Palestinian descent, and openly calls for Israel to be wiped off the map. She's a stone cold, first-rate, first-class anti-Semite. She's a Jew hater to her freaking core. And when she's confronted about her own words, and he's right, completely right. I thought it was a brilliant rebuttal. I'm sorry, look at me. I'm black. Do I look to you like a member of the Third Reich? Like, do you see how insane you sound? Free DC. This is the Democratic Party. This is the Democratic Party. And look, what to me I find most heartening is that in the past, before, you see, to me, the way we used to talk about September 11, 9/11, we're going to be talking now for many years to come about 9/10. 9/10 was the assassination of Kirk. And the days of the pre-9/10 era America are over. In the pre-9/10 era, they would be calling us fascists, Nazis, like typical, like now. There's a fascist takeover. And Republicans would roll their eyes and look at them, look at each other and say, my God, what is she smoking today? But now we realize that puts a target on our back. And the dehumanization and the vilification and the villainization, it's going to stop. It's going to stop because it's getting people killed. And so they're pushing back. And and like a bully, look at him, huh? You verbally punch her in the mouth and look at her. Honestly, I thought she was going to break down and cry. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to the phone lines, but first, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. And I want to ask all of you, now that we are 48 hours away from the funeral of Charlie Kirk, which will be, covered by not just the entire American media, the entire world will be watching the funeral. President Trump, the vice president, leading members of the administration, so many dear friends of Charlie Kirk will be speaking at his funeral, eulogizing him. Does this feel, in many ways, like the assassination, say, of Martin Luther King, or others are even comparing it to the assassination of John F. Kennedy? So let me ask you, is the assassination of Charlie Kirk of the same import as Robert F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr.? Does it feel to you that it has the same importance, the same cultural watershed as, say, when RFK was murdered, or when Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered, or when John F. Kennedy was murdered? A, yes. B, no. And to be brutally honest, if I was voting, to me, this is clearly very reminiscent to me of the assassination of Martin Luther King, a beloved civil rights icon and a beloved civil rights leader. To me, it has that exact same feel. But that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in National ER. And of course, you can vote on X. Last night, I was very active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN is in National ER, at the Kuhner Report. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Jeff, thank you very much, and thank you to Sandy and Mike and all of you. I just want to say a couple of comments. Do you think all of the mainstream media in America is going to be covering it? Because I'm wondering if only Fox and Newsmax will be covering. Just a question before I get to my main point.
Well,
I'm just wondering.
What the networks are saying, and we'll see what happens, the networks are saying they will cover it. So now, whether they start coming under pressure from their, liberal viewers and they change their minds. Now, there is football, right? NFL football on Sunday. So for some stations, football is huge in terms of ratings. But I think it's going to get a lot of media coverage. It should get massive media coverage. And honestly, Verna, we're going to see. I can tell you this, the international media, and I don't just mean, Canada, from Great Britain to Mexico to South Korea to Japan to Italy, you name it. Germany is going to have apparently a huge media presence. Poland. This is going to be one of the biggest funerals of our lifetime, at least in terms of international media coverage. So, I mean, if the world is interested and the major networks aren't interested, that tells you everything you need to know. I mean, then fake news will have hit a new low, just when you thought they couldn't go lower. But anyway, I digress. Please, Verna, pick up where you left off.
Thank you very much. I was at the Vigil last night, and having had the Soviet experience in my earlier adult years, I kind of know how to avoid trouble. But yes, there were protesters. I just walked past them, avoided them, and went right to where the speakers were, right in front of the State House, and then later they moved a few feet away as well. Many speakers. I want to say there were lots of people. I want to say thousands. It just felt like thousands of people. But I just want to say it was awesome. It was really good. I hung around a little bit. I don't know if anybody shared why they dispersed the crowd. The organizers said that the police said that the left was organizing some bad problems, and so they asked people to leave around 9:15 to avoid whatever problems and to watch their back, make sure they weren't followed. And I hung around a little bit, and I was actually interviewed by Boston Globe and by Channel 10 as to why I was there. So there were reporters right there close up, hanging on to see what was going on. And I just was very proud to be there among people of faith, people of political truth, spiritual truth, people that are respecting and, really appreciating the work of Charlie Kirk. I went there to honor and respect his work and what he did and his life. And so I just wanted to put that out there and say I was very proud to be there. And also, a friend of my daughter sent out a message saying, be careful, don't go. There's going to be a lot of darkness. There's going to be a lot of troubles. And that's the thing that gets my back up. I'm like, when it's going to be like that, I'm there. That is the very reason we need to show up, not to be afraid of whatever the other side may or might not do.
Oh, well said. No, Verna, well said. And look, I just want to add to something that you're saying, and I think it's so important. The prayer vigil last night is really a microcosm of what's happening to the country. Everybody, just stand back objectively. Here is a candlelit prayer vigil for a 31-year-old man, a father, a husband, a civil rights leader, a conservative icon, who was brutally assassinated for his views because he went on college campuses and challenged the radical left. And for this, they shot him in the neck. They killed him in cold blood. And so there's a vigil to honor him, his memory, his legacy, his wife, who now doesn't have a husband, his two very young children, who are going to grow up now without a father. And it couldn't be more peaceful, frankly, more civilized, more American, more beautiful. And the radical left has to show up. And there's a comedian, I saw the clip, there's a comedian who's literally mocking the death of Charlie Kirk and saying he had it coming. He deserved it. On a bullhorn, some idiot. And you have others with F-bombs and all kinds of disgusting obscenities and profanities saying Charlie Kirk deserved it. And they threatened people who attended with violence to the point that the police were saying, we fear now this thing could get very ugly. Please, it was scheduled from 7 to 10. That's just 3 hours. 3 hours. You can't give us 3 hours on a private venue, this is the steps of the State House, to just mourn a man and hold candles and pray? That's too much for you? So by 9:15, they had to disperse the crowd? Because they feared violence from the left? And the Democrats and the media are trying to tell us, oh, it's both sides. No, both sides have to ratchet down the rhetoric. No, there's violence on both sides. No, look what happened yesterday. Look what happened. Where did the aggression come from? Where did the threats come from? 617-266-6868 is the number. Mark in Lowell. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Hi. Hey, I just have two comments. One is with the projection of the communists, and the second is Antifa. The projection of the communists, you can see in that Washington Post that the lady was talking about brain sizes. That's her opinion, and that's the opinion of the communists. And somehow we have to keep pushing that and let people know, yeah, that's a lie, on our side, but it's really what they are thinking. And the other one, the Antifa, when did Trump call Antifa a terrorist organization? Was it 2 nights ago?
Wednesday evening, he officially broke the news.
Oh, Wednesday evening. So Thursday would have been hard to mobilize the people to go and arrest everyone in Boston. Because they should have just arrested the people that were trying to start trouble at that venue. And obviously the Boston police thought something was going to happen, and they knew that the conservatives were not going to back down of this one, but they also knew Antifa was going to come and play their game, or BML, whatever the groups are. So anyhow, I personally thought yesterday was a good proving ground to just arrest all these people and put them in detention until we figure out what their connection is to Antifa and the hierarchy. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents worth, sir.
Well, Mark, I think you're dead on. And look, I'm getting some breaking news from some very, very well-placed sources. And I got to be careful because I want this person to call in. I want it to come straight from this person who was involved in organizing yesterday's prayer vigil. But let me just say this. Everything that you said is not 100 but 1,000% correct. When they make up lies about what Charlie Kirk said, it's because it's what they really think deep down. And look, I think the Boston police did an incredible job, and they clearly kept the situation very secure and safe. If they were not there, there would have been mass violence. Take it to the bank. There's no question. There's absolutely no question. Mike, if you can pick up that call, please. Okay, I got a person calling in. I want all of you to hear this. No, and look, Boston police should have contacted the FBI and said, we've got Antifa terrorists, because that's what they are, Antifa thugs and militants, rabble-rousers, agitators here. And you've got this new order now from Trump, this new designation. Well, here they are. Come in and round them up. And, but look, I don't want to criticize the Boston police now because, to be honest, I'm telling you, I know for a fact there would have been assaults, there would have been beatings, and maybe even worse had it not been for the police and the heavy police presence. So, Mark, you're absolutely correct. We have to nip this now. What in the bud? This is out of control. We have to confront this. And think about it. They were going to strike and attack a peaceful prayer vigil. Like, come on. Again, it's like the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You couldn't be more bipartisan than yesterday. You couldn't. Everybody was welcome. I read the invitation. It said Democrats, Independents, Republicans, please. We just want to pray for Charlie, freedom of speech, for our country, and for peace. I don't know how much more bipartisan, and I mean this in a good way. You know, your hand, the olive branch across the aisle, please. Let's all come together for the good of our country. And they want to attack that? Mark, there can be no peaceful coexistence with Antifa. Thank you so much for that call, Mark. Okay. Joining me now is Joan Quinn Eastman. I want, please, you got to stop what you're doing. You need to hear this. She knows Brian Foley and his wonderful wife. They were the organizers of yesterday's peaceful, really beautiful, very successful candlelit prayer vigil for Charlie Kirk. However, Brian Foley, the organizer, is on his way this morning as I speak to you to the FBI's office. Joan, I know you were involved in the planning and the organization of yesterday's vigil. You know Brian Foley very well and his wife. Thank you for coming on to the Kuhner Report. I've got to ask you right away, why is Brian Foley on his way to see people at the FBI?
Well, first of all, Jeff, I want to remind everyone that Brian Foley is a young man who was attacked by approximately 14 people in South Boston for carrying a Trump flag. He was on the steps of the State House with us in April when we did the People's Press Conference. This young man is so courageous. I am blown away by what happened last night. He required a police escort home last night, and once he and his wife got settled back into their place, Antifa cut through the fence and tried to break into their home. He was then removed by the police, put into a safe place, and the FBI, the police, and everyone else involved in this are taking these death threats against him very seriously. Brian actually received the identical death threat the day before the rally that Charlie Kirk received on the day he died. And for all those protesters out there, counter-protesters, I would say there were about 3,000 people there last night, Jeff, and there were about 30 counter-protesters. And as with Jimmy Kimmel, I'd like to say to all of them, forgive them for they know not what they are doing, but they do know what they're doing, Jeff, and it's horrible. But there are so many more of us than there are of them. Survey after survey says that 80% of the United States shares the same values and wants the same things. And right now, if there's any takeaway, horrible, untimely death of Charlie Kirk, it's that we must unite that 80,000 right now because there are so many more of us than there are of them.
No, I agree. The overwhelming majority now is with us and with Trump. There's no question. Joan, if you don't mind, though, I just want to go back because you're making news right now. And so because I know your information is rock solid, because you were part of the organizing that prayer vigil yesterday, and you know Brian and his wife extremely well, and you're in constant contact with them. So what you're saying is that the day before the prayer vigil, the organizer, Brian Foley, received a death threat. And that death threat was identical to the threat that was given to Charlie Kirk the day he was killed. And then you're saying after the peaceful prayer vigil last night, he and his wife got the exact same death threat. And on top of that, I just want to make sure, Antifa cut through his fence and tried to break into his home. Is that accurate, Joan?
Called and told me that, and he said he would call into you to tell you, but he's got it. He was rushing over to the FBI. He literally just woke up after very little sleep this week. The fact that he pulled this off was absolutely extraordinary. Now, he got the identical death threat from Charlie Kirk, which the authorities took very, very seriously. I spoke with the police commissioner's office. I spoke with the FBI. I spoke with the U.S. Attorney's office. They're taking this very seriously. So he is there now. They're investigating it. They're trying to find out who's behind it. And we're just like you said all morning, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. There's been a huge shift. The police presence and the press presence last night was unlike anything I have ever seen in my 40 years in the media, Jeff. They were everywhere, and they stayed. The major stations stayed for hours and hours. They were there hours in advance. They stayed hours afterwards, like one of your listeners just said. I truly believe there is a shift now that people have woken up to the reality of what's happening in our country, and we can no longer let this minority be holding us hostage and taking away from everything that makes our country so great. So Charlie's sacrifice, I mean, the only way to make sense of it in my mind is that, you know, when you lose a bright young soul like that, the only way you can rationalize it is that, you know, he got it right and he got promoted. He sacrificed himself for our good. He was, I dare say, one of the greatest civil rights leaders ever. And his whole mission was about empowering people with the power that we have through our God-given rights. And now you have a Brian Foley who is stepping up fearlessly. There's a whole sea of young people rising. They spoke last night. It was so moving, Jeff. I can't even tell you. The young turning point leaders across the country, and especially here in Boston, asked Brian if he would pull this together because they didn't feel they could do it. And he did it for them, and it's an extraordinary.
God bless him. Honestly, God bless him, and God bless you, Joan. You are one tough cookie. I got to tell you that. You are one brave, courageous, patriotic woman. I really, full kudos to you. Joan, look, I'm sorry because this is such a big story. I want to nail it down 100%. Joan, are you saying, and is Brian saying, and is the police saying that last night Antifa, at a minimum, tried to break into Brian Foley's home, assault him and his wife, or God forbid, try to kill him and his wife? Is that now what we're looking at?
Absolutely, and Brian is happy to come on tomorrow to tell you the whole story himself, Jeff. And the other thing is, what happened at the event is somebody dropped a backpack just before it started. And the police said, well, if you open it, we can look at it. It was filled with toothpaste, oddly. So we don't know if there were pranks planned or whatever. What caused the immediate evacuation of the crowd last night, Brian was only thinking about the safety of the crowd, is that the counter-protesters moved over toward Emerson College. This is what he just told me this morning. And they were threatening violence. And so for the safety of the attendees of the event, he wanted everybody cleared out before anything happened because he said the supervisor, chief of operations, notified him and said, it's getting really bad over here on the other side of the common over toward Emerson College. And so he just immediately interrupted the speaker and said, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here now. He couldn't even say goodbye to anyone. He was whisked away by the authorities. So and he said, well, so what are you going to do? I said, Brian, what are you going to do? You're going to go into protection? And he said, no, I'm going back on the streets of Boston. I am not going to be deterred by this. This young man's courage is extraordinary. And it has lit a flame with the younger generation that to me has inspired me so greatly, Jeff. I'm so deeply moved. So many people told me not to go last night, that it was going to get ugly, there was going to be violence. People were saying goodbye to me like they were never going to see me again. I'm serious. The moment, and I was nervous in the beginning. It was crazy. I have never seen so many police. I'll be posting all the videos later. I just haven't had a chance to do it. But the moment, Jeff, I have to tell you, this is so extraordinary. The moment
Joan, final question, because I'm up against it here, but just very quickly. Joan, if it wasn't for the massive police presence, would there have been violence? In other words, would Antifa, God forbid, would they have started attacking people, assaulting people, God knows what else, in your opinion?
Absolutely. And Channel 7 said that they did arrest a young person with a knife in their backpack. But the moment we stood in that group, you could feel the love and the protection. When those candles started being lit, it was extraordinary. It was just, it gives me so much hope for the future at a time where people are so demoralized, Jeff. And I just say, just keep showing up. Faith over fear. Faith over fear, people. There are so many more of us than there are of them. We've got to stand up now. We've got to learn the power and the strength that we have. And that was Charlie's mission. He was empowering people with the information that can actually shift this country. And between the police presence, the presence of the press, which was amazing, and the people that were there, I am so inspired for the future. And I urge everybody to engage in the Turning Point mission, because this is America's turning point, in my opinion. And I truly believe that Charlie Kirk was martyred, not murdered. And may he rest in eternal peace and his message carry on, because every time I've ever seen anything by Charlie Kirk, I've stopped to watch it and I just walk away shaking my head, blown away. Local people here have been trying to reach him to join in his mission, and now I hope it's accelerated exponentially. And I just, kudos to all the brave folks that showed up last night, Jeff.
Amen. Amen. Joan, thank you once again for everything, and again for your courage and your patriotism, and really your bravery, and for giving us this. I mean, it's just really very important information. And if Brian is listening, I want you to know I'm with you, Brian, and obviously your wonderful wife. And please, to Brian and his wife, stay safe. Joan, you stay safe as well, and thank you again. 617-266-6868. Now you know why Trump designated them a terrorist organization. You know, I mean, everything Joan said I agree with. Please don't get me wrong. But I would add, and arrest them. Arrest them. You got to start arresting Antifa and these radical left thugs. Now, you know, again, God forbid, what if they had broken into the house? And by the way, you cut through someone's yard, you cut the fence, and you keep issuing death threats in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination? And again, remember, the media and the Democrats, oh, both sides. No, it's all one freaking side. And look, listen, I'm very, very happy that it was, it was peaceful because of the police, and obviously because of the wonderful people who showed up for the prayer vigil, who were nonviolent. But if it wasn't for the police, and it wasn't for the restraint of those, of conservatives and of those who were there to honor and commemorate Charlie Kirk, the left would have gotten what they wanted, which is a bloodbath. Now, I'm sorry. So now you can't even hold the prayer vigil? This is what they're trying to do now? We are all Charlie Kirk. We are all Charlie Kirk. And that's why we have to continue to stand up and speak out. 617-266-6868. Okay, your reaction. I want to go back to the phone lines. Debbie in Boston. Thanks for holding, Debbie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. So I was at the prayer vigil last night, and yes, I appreciate the police presence. However, had they arrested them at the outset, that would have indicated to these terrorists that they cannot stop prayer vigils. They thumb their nose basically at President Trump because, as you know, President Trump declared them a terrorist organization. They could care less. And I think that if they had been arrested right at the outset, all of this could have been avoided. And a message would be sent for the future, that we will not tolerate this at all. There was no reason why we had to disperse. That was not acceptable to me. I understand why, because of their behavior, but there's a message going forward that we will not tolerate this. And I think that, they should have been arrested right at the outset. And I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
I agree with you. I mean, Debbie, look, let me be brutally honest with you, like I'm in the confessional. I'm kicking myself now that I wasn't there last night. Really, my ribs are killing me. And I told Brian, I said, and to his wonderful wife, both, I said, please tell everybody I'm there in spirit, because I really am there in spirit. To be honest with everybody, Brian reached out and said, Jeff, we'd like you to be, to host this. I mean, they were the organizers, but to MC it, to host it, to speak, you were going to, we wanted you to play a pivotal, seminal role. I said, I can barely move around my own house. I mean, because of my ribs. But if I was there, I know me. I know. I would have said to the police on the bullhorn, I would have said, that's Antifa. They're designated terrorists. It's now official. Do your job and arrest them. And literally, I would tell Antifa, run, because the FBI is coming for you. Like, it's no more fun and games anymore. So, yeah, of course they should have arrested him. I'm not disparaging the police. I think they did a great job last night. But they should have arrested them on the spot. Look, if ISIS shows up, if Al-Qaeda shows up, if the Muslim Brotherhood shows up, they get arrested just for being members of ISIS and the Muslim Brotherhood or ISIS or Al-Qaeda. That's Antifa now. There is no difference. So you were not confronted with first of all, there was no counter protest. There was no protest. It was a prayer vigil. So you were confronted not with protesters or demonstrators. You were confronted with terrorists. That's what they are now. And so I'm with you, Debbie. The police should have arrested them on the spot. And look, I know why they did it. I know why they dispersed the crowd. But think about it. Violence won again. The radical left threatened violence, and the police buckled and said, okay, disperse. It was a prayer vigil from 7 to 10. It wasn't a 12-hour marathon. It was simply 3 hours. What's wrong with 3 hours? The police should have told them, you're threatening violence? That's incitement. Lock them up. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jose in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jose, and welcome.
Away with another one last night, disrupting a prayer vigil. That's what they do. But I usually call in when it's about illegal immigration. This one really sticks in my craw. I'm ecstatic that President Trump has designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. But Black Lives Matter has to be on that list, and I will tell you why. They hurt and kill people, other innocent people, to prove their so-called point, as does Antifa. Now, BLM, the Summer of Love, they are on video with their BLM shirts, BLM masks, removing the stolen items from the looted stores, easily identifiable, no investigation, no charges. We got to step up the game. Thank you, President Trump. But as the previous caller said, we have to go get them. The FBI has to go get them. They got to be investigated. Get their cell phones. See where their money's coming from. Who's delivering the pallets of bricks? Get it all out there. What do you say, Jeff?
Oh, I'm with you. Oh, Jose, you had me at hello, as they say. I'm so with you on this. And look, just to bring it full circle to what you were saying, what you led with. I mean, what kind of animals? No, I'm talking, these are savages. Really, these are brainwashed, sick, evil savages, barbarians. You want to not even disrupt a prayer vigil. You want to threaten to beat up, elderly people at a prayer vigil? You've got people in their 70s and 80s who attended it, and they're being menaced by these thugs. And what are you threatening? A prayer vigil over a man who was assassinated, an innocent man who was assassinated. And what, a prayer vigil is too much? And again, not to beat a dead horse, they basically gave him 2 hours and 15 minutes. The prayer vigil was supposed to go from 7 to 10 p.m. By 9:15, essentially, Antifa is threatening. They're going to go violent. Like, they're just going to go violent. So we don't want a confrontation. We don't want people to get hurt. So please, can all of you leave and go home? So you can't even get 3 hours. 2 hours and 15 minutes maximum. I mean, you want these people roaming our society and our streets? And they've been doing this now for how many years? And you're right. It's because they've been completely unchecked. They've been allowed to rampage, to burn, to riot, to loot. They've essentially destroyed Seattle. Hell, Portland. I have a doctor that I saw literally, what was it? This was about 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks, before my trip to Europe, okay? And I went to see him. And he said, I just came back at the time. He said, I just came back from a vacation. I took my family. I got relatives in Portland. He said, it's a third world hellscape. He says, you have no idea how bad it is in Portland. Homeless camps everywhere. Crime everywhere. Graffiti everywhere. And he goes, and Antifa runs the place. He just volunteers this. I didn't even ask. He says, and Antifa, it's like a paramilitary group. They patrol the downtown streets like they own it. And they're vandalizing cars. They destroy shops, as you put it, pallets of bricks. They attack people. They menace people. And the mayor of Portland, that crazy liberal and leftist, he's okay with all this. Like, in other words, yeah, we don't need police. We have Antifa. Antifa will do the enforcement for us. And now, obviously, they're in Boston. There's no question they're in Boston. Hell, they're in Chicago. They're almost everywhere. Black Lives Matter is everywhere. And who bankrolled them? It was the Democratic Party. In fact, we have them on tape. Kamala Harris said she's Black Lives Matter. She, in fact, she raised money through a bail fund to get some of these murderers and rioters out of jail. Joe Biden said, quote unquote, when I'm president, Black Lives Matter will have a seat at the table in the Oval Office. I can play you the cut. So, no, the problem now the Democrats have, and frankly, Maura Healey and Michelle Wu, and the Democrats know this, they've been coddling and empowering and embracing and funding and supporting Antifa and Black Lives Matter and all of this left-wing political violence and all of this left-wing terrorism. That's the problem now. You investigate Antifa, you're not just going to get George Soros and his son. You're going to get Bill Gates. You're going to get Reid Hoffman. You're going to get the biggest donors of the Democratic Party. And I'll bet you the best freaking steak at the best steakhouse, you're going to get leading Democratic officials. They're in bed with these people politically. They encourage this. So look, this is, if you're intellectually honest, the Vatican of the radical left is the Democratic Party. That is their church. And if you believe that radical leftism is a cancer, and I do, and if you believe that they are now a movement based on murder and hatred and violence, which I do, then I'm sorry. The Democratic Party is a terrorist organization. I have to call it the way I see it. In other words, they should be dismantled, and they should be put in prison. Because they're the ones who have been fomenting, instigating, supporting, and encouraging this now for God knows how many years. So if I'm President Trump, you better put everybody on notice. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we're going to go right back to the phone lines. But joining me now is William Kelly Jr. He is obviously from Kelly Financial Services. And as you know, normally it's his mother who comes on, Kelly, to talk about the latest that's coming from Kelly Financial Services. Today, however, it's a very, very special hit. William Kelly Jr. wants to devote his time in order to commemorate and honor Charlie Kirk. William, it is great to have you on the Kuhner Report, and welcome.
Likewise, Jeff. Thank you for having me on this platform. So I'll get started. Charlie embodied the American warrior spirit. I first encountered his influence at 13 when Turning Point USA had just entered the online political realm. While others leaned on cynicism or cold analysis, Charlie stood out for his compassion. He authored critical works, elevated discourse, and always placed God at the center of his message. That commitment defined him. Whether people agreed with him or not, he opened the political world for young Americans. He welcomed dialogue, even with opponents, with grace and courage. Charlie urged us to think critically, to challenge complacency, and to confront the decay of our institutions. He met critics face to face, never with hate, but with conviction and love. I hold no doubt he rests in heaven. His assassination has become, for Gen Z, the turning point of American history. His death breathes new life into his message and gives even greater weight into his words. Thank you, Jeff.
William, that was very well done. Very powerful, very moving. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And God bless you, William. Please give my best to your mom, to your sister, and to everyone at Kelly Financial. Okay, again, that was William Kelly Jr. If you want to reach out to Kelly Financial Services, 888-800-1881. Their number again is 888-800-1881. You can also email them, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Phil in Salem. Thanks for holding, Phil, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, fellow Croatian. We've spoken many times before.
Welcome, Phil.
It comes down to, let's go really back to basics. It starts off with education. We hear the word fascism, but it's interesting. Fascists closed all the churches. Well, they did not believe in faith, as did the communists. So funny enough, as opposed, diametrically opposed, at least on the spectrum of left versus right, they both closed churches. So clearly we can't be fascists. Number two, you never hear, they scream fascist at us, but nobody talks about the communists. Stalin made Hitler look like a Boy Scout. He killed 30 million. Mao killed 50 million. Now, you take all the fascists combined, Franco, Mussolini, Hitler, and any one of the other communist leaders killed more than those three combined. But you don't hear that. Why? Because in school we don't teach history. We unfortunately have fallen into the Santayana statement that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But the ignorance is on the left because they use the word fascism like you use a Kleenex. Really, it's good for one. Or toilet paper. Good for one wipe, flush it away. Because they don't know what a fascist is, by definition. Because we find solace in faith. We'll turn the cheek. I'll only give you one cheek, though. Make sure I don't get up. Because at that point, it becomes self-defense. But we never throw the first punch. You know, we don't go rampaging. We don't climb on rooftops and shoot people for talking. You know who did that? Beria and the NKVD under Stalin. If you spoke, you disappeared. Hell, your parents under Tito. If you spoke against him, the benevolent despot, of course, but a communist nonetheless, you disappeared. Franco, on the right, fascist, you spoke against him, you disappeared. So don't worry about being called names. Names have as much substance as breaking wind. Makes a noise, leaves a stink, nothing more than that.
Phil, I got to say, man, you destroyed him. You really, my fellow Croatian American, you took him apart. Literally, you eviscerated him. Phil, let me ask you this. now that Antifa has been officially designated as not just a terrorist organization, but a major terrorist organization, do you think now the Democratic Party is going to do everything in their power to disassociate themselves, to separate themselves from Antifa? Or do you think at this point, in for a penny, in for a pound? In other words, they've made their bed with the radical left. These are their shock troops, along with Black Lives Matter, obviously, and others. And now they're going to back them all the way. Where do the Democrats go from here, in your view, Phil?
You see that the bill that's coming back to Congress to bring back the equal time on the networks, what party's against that? The Democrats, because the bill is being proposed by the Republicans. They're bringing back the one that the Biden administration got rid of, and the Obama one, because they didn't want to hear the side of moderation or right-leaning. And I don't like right-left. I'm a constitutionalist. It's the most beautiful, and we've spoken about this, it's the most beautiful piece of paper. And funny enough, freedom of speech is actually not the first thing listed on the Bill of Rights. It's freedom of religion. And it's because of the preaching by different sects that freedom of speech came about. But again, we don't teach that in school, because it's more important in school to teach boys can be girls and girls can be boys and you can be an animal. And that if you kill a fascist in the name of saving democracy, what a hypocrisy. You're killing someone because they're vocalizing their beliefs? Merely vocalizing. We're not beating you with a stick. We're not torturing you like Himmler did, or like Beria did, or Franco, Spain. Because you spoke and it wasn't in lockstep with the dogma of the state, off to a gulag, or possibly worse. And so the teachers of America, they should be held accountable. Half of them don't even know their own Constitution. Heck, remember they were fighting the placing of the Ten Commandments in classrooms, saying there's a separation of church and state, and not in the Constitution. All it said in the Constitution was that there should be no official religion of the United States, like Catholic France or Lutheran Germany or Anglican England. That's what Jefferson said. And they also forget one other statement. I think it's Alexander Hamilton, but you may correct me on this. It said, I may not agree with what you say, but I shall defend unto my death your right to say it. And they don't like words like that. That scares them, puts fear in their souls if they have any.
Well, and Phil, just literally just put a period on your disquisition here. Really almost like a mini lecture. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. For them, that's fascism. Like, that's how insane they are. That's how unhinged they are. In other words, freedom is fascism, because that's what conservatives believe. We may disagree with you, but we will fight to the death for your right to say it, because we ultimately believe in freedom of speech. And as you put it, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, freedom of the press. We believe in the Bill of Rights. We believe in the Constitution. And so in their sick, warped mind, freedom is fascism. 617-266-6868. Let's go to Tom in Stoneham. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Jeff, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, Tom.
I was going to talk about something when I called, and then I got the news from that caller that about trying to break into Mr. Foley's house. And I was kind of shocked, and I'm thinking, why should I be shocked? And can you imagine trying to break into your home for a vigil that he was running? It's absolutely crazy what these people are doing. It's no wonder Trump is making them terrorist groups. Of course, he has to. He has no choice. It's absolutely insane how these people are reacting to somebody who wants to hold a peaceful vigil. And the original reason I called is because I'll just go back. I know you've said this before. I've listened to you, but I went to college back in 1979. I know that's a ways back. And we had liberal professors, but they taught you things. And they opened up the floor for arguments back and forth. You know, they were the devil's advocate, and they taught you one basic concept. Think for yourself. They taught you how to think. Think for yourself. Make your own arguments. And you were more intelligent that way when you graduated. Nobody walked out of there when I graduated brainwashed. And, this is what's happening to these kids. And, you get Charlie Kirk. And I didn't even know how popular he was till my son and my daughter told me. Because my son has been out of college for a year. My daughter's still in there. And he's like, I don't know, maybe he neutralized all these crazies. But he was there saying, hey, prove me wrong. It was an open debate in front of a microphone. And he debated people the way you should. Make your argument and I'll make yours. Freedom of speech. He was the king of the freedom of speech. This is what we're fighting against. A vigil, freedom of speech, attacking us. God, don't let anybody know where you live, for Christ's sake. It's a wonder you have to have police officers, an army of police officers, just to have a vigil. And I don't know. It's just driving me up a wall when I heard that news today that they were trying to break into this guy's house. Now, if that's a terrorist act, there's no act of more acute terrorism than a group of people trying to get into your home simply because you want to have a vigil.
In fact, look, Tom, and I share your disgust completely. And I agree with you, by the way. Look, I graduated later than you, obviously, but when I finished my BA, what was that, 1991? It was the end of, 1992, forgive me. It was in 1992, so it was maybe 13 years after you. And yeah, my professors were, with the exception of one, they were all on the left. They were liberals, but they thought critical reasoning. They believed in, open, free debate. They didn't impose you knew their politics, you can just tell. But the class wasn't an indoctrination center. You weren't there to be brainwashed and to turn you into a hardcore Marxist or to hate your country or to hate Western civilization or to come out supporting the Palestinians and Hamas and be this rabid Jew hater. And the universities have been completely transformed. They're indoctrination. They really are indoctrination camps. And there is no argument, counter argument to Charlie Kirk. They can't beat Charlie Kirk because he was speaking the truth. And everywhere communism has taken root, they answer every argument with a bullet because communism is a massive lie. Marxism is a massive lie, like fascism. So that's why they can't deal in rational, open, back and forth civil debate because they lose. So they have to resort to the bullet. But look, Tom, I'm going to be brutally honest. I think had they broken into that house, they would have killed Brian and his wife. For them, this is what I think we don't understand. For most of the country, those who are normal and sane and decent, the murder of Kirk is an abomination. For these Antifa thugs, for these violent left-wing activists, it's an inspiration. For them, I'm telling you, it's one MAGA down, more to go. The only good MAGA is a dead MAGA. And so that's why, I'm very happy there was a massive police presence. And by the grace of God, they weren't able to break into Brian Foley's home.